visible spooky thing is so much more trustworthy than chemical reactions.
I understand. I understand that a theist would say it's because your soul is manipulated by this benevolent, awesome being, which obviously I don't believe that it's benevolent.
A benevolent, awesome being could do all. I mean, but a benevolent thing could do all kinds of stuff to you for your own good, right? And it could still be a pack of lies.
Right.
Religion is all about lying to people for their own good.
Right.
I mean, you could be, in much the same way that you could be a brain in a vat or an individual in a matrix, you could be a soul in a soul testing environment by some, you haven't avoided the problem at all.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that is just sidestepping a little bit. Thanks, guys, for your time. I didn't want to run up too much, but yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Luke. I will do my normal, or my new normal, quick take on why the soul, as it's generally portrayed, is an utterly untenable hypothesis. And it's because everything that we know about who we are is limited and identifiable in the brain. And the research that we've been doing, if you look up V.S. Ramachandran, for example, there's the good example of the split brain patients, where they develop two entirely different personalities, one being an atheist, one being a Christian. They have different likes. They communicate differently. So when that happens, when we split that brain, did we split a soul in half? Did we create a new soul? And you know, the math of that soul doesn't work out. Also, brains have been reset by trauma to where they have an utterly different personality. If somebody was saved and then they suffer some dramatic trauma, are they now unsaved? Or, you know, it's absurd. When everything we know about who we are dies when we die. Nobody's ever demonstrated anything that would even lead one to suspect that there's, you know, a part of us that continues. And by the way, if it's just a part of us, it's not us. My brain is the producer of my, you know, who I am, my personality, my likes, my preferences, etc. You know, how much of me could possibly survive if we know that this, you know, physical process is actually creating that?
Well, I'm a transhumanist, so I kind of disagree with you. I think that if you can duplicate the process that is going on inside my brain perfectly, then you've exactly duplicated me.
And I would agree that
that's
you've
a whole
exactly
separate,
duplicated me.
That's a whole separate
But it's
discussion.
not me.
Yeah, I think it is.
Anyway.
Depends on what you want to identify with.
Yeah. Anyway, we're way off topic there, Luke.
That's cool. No, that's basically what I was wanting to talk about anyway.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Sure. Thanks for the call. As a reminder, you can put that thing back up that Frank's shown twice real quick. We won.
Yay.
The Atheist Experience was voted by our viewers, by the public in general, as the best public access TV show in Austin by the Austin Chronicle. And so we wanted to thank everybody for that. There's the banner we got for it. We're going to leave it down here at the studio. And we'll show it probably from time to time while we gloat over the fact that we absolutely rock. But thanks everybody who voted. I appreciate it. There's a lot of work that goes into the show, and most of it is not done by me. The co-hosts do more work than I do, and the people behind the scenes who do the setup and keep the show alive do much more work than I do. So I was really happy that the producers went down to pick up that award, because they are a huge part of what makes this show the best.
Mm.
We are the best.
Mm.
Take that, Alex Jones. We've got Ed here in Austin. How are you, Ed?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
Well, I was going to talk about my own personal experience with pain management and the relaxation protocol, and apply it to something that Pat was talking about, her spiritual experience when she meditated.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that I've personally experienced, going in myself, in my mind, my body, and actually helping myself, relieving myself of pain, and through relaxation. there's very little difference between what I think people are talking about when they say relaxation and when they say meditation. The relaxation, people just don't like the religious connotations that go along with meditation, is basically what it is. But scientists are, and the medical profession are, somewhat reluctantly in some sense, in the Western sense, but they are starting to look at this type of how our mind can help our bodies overcome illness and pain and discomfort and stuff like that.
Sure, and we've looked at hypnosis, for example, as, anesthetic or other things like that.
Right.
Yeah,
and I really thought that, just a couple of points real quick.
Yeah.
I thought Jeff said something very interesting a minute ago about the spooky powers, and that how is the idea of this spooky thing out there more comforting than the idea of a chemical reaction in our body. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, I agree with you guys on some stuff, but we're different as day and night for the most part. But I think that's very interesting. I think we're at the dawning of a new age, paradigm-shifting thing going on, and I believe, or I think, I don't believe very much, I think, a theory that I have is that things are changing, and that what used to be comforting, this idea that there's a God or that there's this spiritual realm, used to be a comforting thing. And I think our thought process, the human thought process, has evolved to a point where it's no longer, it's becoming not as comforting. It's becoming less comforting. The idea that there's a God is becoming really scary. And the idea that there's not a God is becoming looking more like a comfort zone for a lot of folks. That's my personal theory about that.
Yeah, we're different as night and day, because I have no fear of the idea that there is a God, and I'm not an atheist because it brings me comfort.
Yeah, well, I would expect you to say that. I called in one time and argued with you about the placebo effect, and that they've documented how taking placebos and people being misled, the misinformation, or the misleading element of the placebo effect actually has healing benefits for people. And you pretended like I was saying that the placebo, the actual sugar pill was turned into medicine, which is not what I was saying at all. I was just saying that if somehow belief was helping people, shouldn't we look into that, and should we just not be so quick? I say we very generously. Shouldn't you be not so quick to debunk belief as a possible something that humans can maybe use? I think you do.
I'm perfectly familiar with the placebo effect, and I'm also aware that people are actually doing studies on how much the brain can affect. I mean, if the brain is my pain sensor, there are certain things that it is reasonably possible for the brain to do. It's the one that triggers the release of antibodies and all of the things in my body. So it's certainly plausible that there may be mechanisms like that, and the placebo effect demonstrates it. I'm not disregarding that at all. I'm saying
you did when I called, but now you're saying something different. By the way, you still owe me a steak dinner.
I doubt that, but
you do. You admitted that you said you'd give me a McDonald's Happy Meal. But I gave a perfectly good example of one benefit that religion has provided that a secular source could not provide for human beings.
And what was that?
A perfectly good example, and I was talking to you and Jeff.
And what was
Jeff made this incredibly asinine point that because religious people were in prison, that proved religion didn't make people good. First of all, that's not scientific at all.
Would you care to repeat?
What I was saying, because I wasn't saying religion made people good. I was saying, my point was,
would you care to repeat the thing
idea, the belief that people have in an all-seeing, all-knowing God that will send them to hell had a behavior modification effect that couldn't be provided by a secular source.
Sure it can.
What?
It can be provided by any fear source. It can also, by the way, we can modify people's behavior for good without the fear.
Yeah, look at European.
You admitted that fear, the religious fear, had benefits. You admitted that. But what your point was that the criminal justice society could somehow replace this idea of an all-seeing God.
No, not the criminal justice society, which I will admit that the idea that laws exist and are enforceable is also one way to modify behavior. My challenge was to identify something that a religious thing could achieve by virtue of it being true that could not also be achieved by secular means. And for the second time, you've called in to say the same thing, which is demonstrably false, that religion is the only source for modifying behavior for positive. That's not true.
That's not what I said.
That's what you have to. Ed,
you said provide a private example of one benefit.
One
Let
benefit.
me finish what you said.
One benefit that can only be provided by religions and not by secular sources. That is the challenge. That's something that can only be achieved by religion. I'm sorry I didn't phrase it as only by religion. Instead I said that religions can do that secular can't. But when you put that dichotomy together, you get that can only be produced by religion. You haven't met the challenge, and you haven't met it twice. Justin in Canada, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing. What you doing?
Just sitting at home watching TV.
We're watching TV too.
Nice.
We're just seeing us, though, on the monitor. It's not that exciting.
I'm just stating up front right now, I am completely religious. I'm a full-out Christian. And I believe this way because it was a vision that me and my whole family saw. It was at last year's Easter. And it was really weird. It creeps me out. We were all sitting in the same room. And we were just talking, celebrating Easter together. And we had a bright light glow in the doorway. And I swear to you, a man walked illuminated by a gold light and said, "Son, I just lost the game. You're a fat nigger. Fuck you, Dave."
Nice.
Well, that's a terrible way to end the show. Thanks, everybody, for participating. I completely forgot and lost track of time. We will not be here next week. We'll be here in 2 weeks in the new studio for an hour. Sorry. And our voters guide's got 60 responses so far. Keep contacting the people we sent it out to, and check the website for more information.